Men are the minority in dementia units, and it's very difficult for women supporting their husbands, especially if they've become cantankerous and demanding, and especially so if aggression comes into the equation. But equally, men can become depressed as well and dependent, and that's also very difficult. There was one couple, lovely couple, where he became extremely depressed. She was extremely supportive and said, I'll do anything for him, whatever he needs. And initially she needed to come in every day practically to support him with walks, outings, etc., to get through that transition. But he was a very strong man, and in time realised that this was his lot, this was his life. And he said to me, I've got to let her go. She needs her own life now. And he actually withdrew. She continued to support, and they were friends, but you could see that he had actually withdrawn himself from the relationship to be able to give her the freedom to lead the life that he felt she needed to. She was a lot younger than him, and she actually got a full-time job in the end, and he spent most of his time, well, all of his time at the unit, obviously, because that's where he was living, but he committed himself to the community at the unit, helping those women that were sick and unwell and partaking in the activities and leading the group actually in the end as a voice for the group, for them to be able to be heard, especially those that were more quiet and vulnerable, who weren't, who didn't have a voice. He had a strong voice and would speak up on behalf of them. So that was a really interesting situation, quite sad initially, but in the end he was so strong and insightful and generous to be able to see that, look, his wife obviously lived outside, she was younger, she needed a life, and he couldn't continue to be dependent on her, or otherwise she wouldn't be able to have her freedom. And because of that, he decided to withdraw and let her have her life, which she did with her full-time work, even though she continued to come and support. Remarkable. I've only seen one case of that. That's like definitely the exception, but it can be done. A generous relationship. They had a generous relationship with each other, for each other. And he was thinking of her as she was equally thinking of him. So that's just one example. But of course, there's many examples where it's not like that. It can be that the man comes in, of course, angry that he's had to come into the unit. Maybe he can keep it under control, but seething nevertheless. And you just have to be really careful about these situations when men become unsettled and cantankerous, because especially if the man's tall and strong and potentially aggressive, there's a big risk, especially if he actually is aggressive, either to staff or residents. There, of course, is the big risk of them going on to medication. And then, of course, all the side effects of medication physically and psychologically. So at all costs, you really have to try and dampen down any cantankerous, aggressive emotions with men in dementia units. And if you as a wife or partner coming into the unit are concerned for your own safety with your husband, or more so it's emotionally stressful, because it's generally not unsafe in a dementia unit, it's more unsafe actually for residents and staff with aggressive behaviour from male dementia residents. I've never witnessed male dementia residents being aggressive to relatives, but certainly to staff and residents who they're with, 24/7, whereas they're only seeing their family now and then. But if family, if the wife has had to undergo a lot of criticism and, verbal, emotional abuse, in that sense, throughout the years of their husband with dementia, they'll feel worn down. It can be very emotionally, stressful. So if that's the case, then bringing in either a son or a grandson or another stronger, younger person from the family with you is a really good idea, because it disperses the emotional energy. You've got someone there for support. If your husband or partner does become a bit aggressive, the other person can step in, and it just adds for another means of conversation. It's not that you're having to be one-on-one with the person that's cantankerous with you, but if you've got someone else there that you can have light conversation with, it makes the visit so much more amenable and easier to get through. So it's generous on the part of relatives if they can see this, just suggesting to mum or grandmother or whatever, look, would you like me to come with you to support you in the visit to see granddad or dad? And no doubt she'll say yes, and it's a very good way of being able to make a visit more manageable, if you like. So, I mean, these are just two examples, but there's many situations. Probably the majority of the men, are good, but of course it's highly stressful and difficult, and of course they don't want to be there and they want to get out, and that of course is often laid on the wife if there hasn't been that understanding, that conversation where the person has accepted that this is where they need to be, but as much as possible try to get to that position where the man realises his memory's been failing, he's got dementia, it's not safe for him to be at home, it's become unmanageable, and really he needs to be in the facility. This conversation needs to be had repetitively if need be for him to accept that, because really it's only from that place of acceptance he will settle down at least and start to accept the situation and the community and hopefully integrate into the community. But it has its highs and lows, of course, but that's the ultimate position you want to get into. So support, of course, always helps. Support never not helps, but it also has to be seen as to what position the wife is in and how much she's had to put up with before the man comes into the unit. And it may well be that the man has been pleasant, amenable, and is a gentleman, so he's not causing any problems with the dementia in terms of aggression. That of course can happen, and that's excellent, because that will mean that the wife will be more emotionally resilient than if aggression has been part of the equation. But it's very different for everybody, and according to what the woman or the support partner is having to put up with will determine what support and input is needed and whether others need to come in and support with the visits, etc. So I've written about these topics and more in these two books. Everything you need to know for a person going into a dementia unit is this one, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit, and The Resident's Rise, the companion book for when the person is in the facility and everything you need to know about that once they're in there. So both of them on Amazon and my website, pietavalentine.com. Easy reading, good reading, essential reading actually for this condition, because there really is so much to learn and to know. And thank you for your support on TikTok and YouTube, and your comments and your likes. I really appreciate it with getting this little channel up and running. And please pass on the links. Thank you.